In the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night, in the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night.
Hello everyone, I'm Anthropomantic Fiend, and I do horror-related things on the internet. I'm not dead, and whatever that thing was that had captured me, I've managed to evade it for just a little bit, so I can bring you this review. And I've circled back around to the beginning of the 30 Nightmare Movies box set, so I'm doing The Cry. Don't know what year this one came out, but I am assuming it was 2000s or 2010s by the look of it. It's a story about La Llorona, the spirit of the woman who has drowned her children. I know a movie in the Conjuring universe came out about that. I think that was fairly recently, but I'm not certain. This is a La Llorona story, but it's set in New York, which is strange. And for a lot of the movie, I was just like, why is La Llorona in New York anyway? But you find out eventually, but that's spoilers, so I'm not getting into that. This movie, basic premise is that women throughout New York have suddenly killed their own children, usually by drowning them in the bathtub, and these child murderers have popped up everywhere and nobody can figure out why it's happening, except for the viewer, who's known it was La Llorona from the beginning, because they flat out tell you at the beginning of the movie. But that's more or less the movie, just trying to unravel all of that, even though there's not much to unravel. I will say right now, our main characters are cops and this woman and her kid who La Llorona seems to have specifically targeted. I will take this section and I will put it in the beginning of the video so that this whole thing makes a lot more sense. So, future Fiend, put that there, please. Anyway, it's a very middle-of-the-road movie. It's far from perfect, but I don't totally hate it either, and it's very hard to place. There's a lot of weird CG. There's like very weird like montages and collages of images that appear that are supposed to be sort of creepy, but don't really end up working that way. They do look kind of cool. Sometimes there were certain collage parts that I sort of reminded me of like Dave McKean's Sandman cover art, but like much lower quality. I don't know, it was kind of cool, but it wasn't having the intended effect. The music's kind of cool. You've got your general horror soundtrack, and then you've got all of this Latin music mixed in with it, which is cool. The camera work is good, but the camera quality isn't the best. The effects look silly, and they tend to use sound effects and visual effects way too much to try to build up their scares, and it doesn't really work. The acting in this movie is, I wrote it on my paper as a solid meh, because I can believe that these would be real people, but it's all very whatever. I don't really care about them too much. There's a few weird editing choices, like repeated shots of certain things, repeated shots of certain things, repeated shots of certain things. A lot of things are just supposed to give this movie some style, but they don't really have any connection to the substance. It's sort of like what Guillermo del Toro would say. It's sort of eye candy over eye protein, if you will. Even though some of it does pertain to the story, a lot of it is just stylization for no particular reason. The child characters in this, even though I cared about them, are not very good actors. I cringed a little bit when they talked just because it felt forced, but what are you gonna do? This is probably my most uninteresting movie review yet. Overall, these people are clearly ambitious. They're clearly trying to do something cool. It has this sort of weird charm to it because you can tell that these people really cared about what they were making. It just kind of falls through. I wouldn't really recommend it, but it has this weird, cheesy charm to it, I guess. And with that, we move into the spoilers. our two cop characters who have been investigating these murders meet with this woman who can tell them about La Llorona. She appears to be some kind of woman of sight, fortune teller, someone who can see the future, someone with knowledge of the other world. They don't really tell you. She's just an old woman. She sort of talks about La Llorona and how she connects to creatures in other cultures such as Lilith and the Greek creature Lamia. There's also sort of this implication that Lilith, La Llorona, and Lamia, all starting with L. She mentioned some other ones that didn't start with L, but those were the ones I remembered. But anyway, she implied that they all might be the same creature, not sure, and explains that La Llorona isn't just a blind killer, she is an avenger, more or less. She's trying to, all the women who have drowned their kids are doing it because La Llorona didn't take too kindly to the way their husbands were taking advantage of them. So it kind of ends badly for everybody, but I see the motivation. La Llorona's reason she's targeting the specific family is because Tonio, the son of this woman, is apparently the reincarnation of her son, which explains why she's in the city, but it's all just kind of there, and I sort of care. I can respect what they were going for, but it's very whatever. There's one specific scene that's a highlight when the woman's being chased by La Llorona, and she goes to get help from these two guys who are sort of these stereotypical redneck characters who are cracking these jokes that you don't really have any context for and just laughing until they're out of breath. And she goes to them and she's being attacked and she tries to get help and they try to take advantage of her. It's very unpleasant, but she gets away. And then La Llorona kills both of them. One guy looks over and the other guy's neck is broken, and then you see things from La Llorona's point of view, which has this weird blue watery filter over it. And he lets out this scream that is so hilarious to me. I don't know why, but I love that scream. It makes me so happy. It's the highlight of the movie for me. One of the cops gets killed and the other guys, La Llorona has taken possession of the woman and she's in the water with her kid and she's about to drown him and he gets rescued, but then she's got like these thorny plants and she stabs them into her eyes so she'll cry blood. And there's been this whole thing about bloody tears throughout the movie, and Tonio even drew a picture of her mom with like bloody tears saying that, you know, his stuffed animal told him that she was gonna cry just like that. And I was just like, oh, it's gonna be like the other women, because all of them have had this like red coming from their eyes when they're killing, but no, her eyes are gone. They are pools of blood. And it's kind of cool, but there's not really any context for it, and that's how the movie ends. There's also a bunch of dead bodies coming up out of the water, a la the end of Poltergeist, but with less context. That's The Cry. It's kind of an awkward movie. It has a cheesy "you're next" thing at the end, which doesn't make sense because I am a male who's no longer a child and is probably never going to be a mother because I'm male, but whatever. Apparently I'm next. So that's The Cry. Watch it if you want to. Don't if you don't. I won't care. It's a movie that exists in the world. Thank you for watching my review. I will hopefully see you next time. You're next.